The anarchist themselves has a bad name because there are a lot of people who go around calling themselves anarchists who do stupid stuff and give anarchy a bad name. And Christians have the same problem. You have a certain number of people who run around calling themselves Christians and believers in the teachings of Christ, and they don't act very Christ-like.
We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy on the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here's your host, Michael Storm.
Welcome to Toward Anarchy. I'm Michael Storm. Wherever you're finding the show at today, please give us a click or tap or smash or on that like button, whatever it is you have to do to get that thing to respond to you. Do it now. It's the best time to do it before you forget. You get into the show and all of a sudden it's over and you're on to the next thing. You short attention span having, it's just simply the best way you can support me. Click that like button. Visit towardanarchy.com, looking for episode 2604, and you'll see my guest is one of my favorites, Craig Harguess. He's blaspheming for profit, apparently, and we'll get into that. You can help him blaspheme for profit. You can visit the badromanproject.com. thebadroman.com for information on the Bad Roman Project and the podcast and everything that Craig does, including hooking up with some Bad Roman Salsa. You can also go to badromansalsa.com. Of course, all those links are available at towardanarchy.com. Again, episode 2604. Brother, man, it is so good to have you back. I am so glad to, well, at least potentially have a conversation with somebody who doesn't completely devalue life based on statist ideologies and mislabeling of people. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. It seems like it's been a minute since we've sat down and talked with each other. I can't remember the last time I was on your show, but it feels like it's been forever ago.
Yeah, no, I think it probably was. I mean, we may have chatted or something, here or there, but I think it was probably about this time last year that you were on. So, it's our annual celebration, I guess.
There you go. Annual dose of the Bad Roman.
So how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. We're waiting. I don't know what it's like where you're at, but we're waiting to see what the winter storm's going to be like this weekend. It started off as 8 to 12 inches, and now they're down to less than an inch, or maybe an inch, maybe 1 to 3 inches. So I don't know. Nobody knows.
Is that right? So okay, so cool. That speaks a good word for us because it's supposedly coming up out of the south, and I'm up above you here. So they were still talking about they had pushed the boundaries of the border of the snow and the storm up into my territory with potential for higher, count of inches count, and that's good. That's good. That means that maybe we won't get it. I don't know. I'm not a farmer, so I guess I don't really care. But you kind of are doing the salsa thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I could go, and I'm going to do it this weekend, too. I'm going to go get everything I need. But I could go, there's a local international food market that I could go pick up some supplies from as well and make my salsa with that. But so it doesn't hurt me as much as it would an actual farmer. But
sure.
I was at the grocery store yesterday, and people have completely flipped their lid on this storm coming in. I mean, they're wiping out grocery stores. It was reminiscent of the COVID era when yeah, they're terrified of a little bit of snow and ice. So, but
yeah, that's crazy. I've heard that of people in the South.
Yeah, as long as you got enough to eat at the house, just stay at home. It's all good.
Yeah, right. Don't go out on the roads.
Yeah.
No big deal, right? Don't get out there in the cold. It's not a big deal. As long as the heat stays on, I guess, you don't have power outages. But I suppose that's probably a little bit of a thing because your infrastructure there probably isn't necessarily built to be sturdy in the heavy weather. I mean, it still happens here. And, here in Topeka, it's ice. That's what we get. Yeah. It rains and everything freezes. And so there's a layer of ice on the trees, and you get that glassy, ice covered tree, shiny thing going on. And it's the same with the roads. And, it's just so much worse, I think, than just a little bit of snow. Having grown up in Colorado and having lived with snow, having lived through actual blizzards with, snow drifts well above my head, surrounding my house, barely able to get out of the house, I'd rather have the snow than the ice and the damage that it causes. It damages the roads more. More problematic. Well, I've just been thinking of the power, like the power and bringing down power lines and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was fixing to say. It was a year or two ago. We had quite a bit of ice, and I had lost power at my house for 3 or 4 days.
Oh my!
But it gets a little cold after a while. You can't run your heat, but just stay bundled up. But we made it through. My mom was a little worried because she hadn't heard from me. I couldn't charge my phone, so nobody was hearing from me. So, but other than that, it was all good.
Oh man, yeah, no, I never think about that. I'm just concerned about the warmth and being able to manage the sort of food stores and things like that, as opposed to like the phone. Oh no, my phone's not charged. That's not good. Luckily, I'm in a city, so I don't have to tend to go too far to find somebody that does have power.
Right.
Yeah. It's all right. How's that salsa thing working out for you, man? You've been doing this a while. You've got a bunch of different flavors now. It just sounds like it's a lot of fun. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun doing it, and you're not profiting. It's actually nonprofit. All the money that is made goes to local charities. Am I right?
Anything above our production cost at the show, we give to charity. That was something we started at the very beginning. I didn't want to be, and it's even though we've said that from the beginning, I still get called a grifter, and I'm not. Sure. And that's one thing that really bugs me the most is being called a grifter. But I try to remind people from the very outset of this project that it was never to put money in my pocket. So if we do make any money above what I have to pay my producer or anything else that goes with the show, then it goes to local charities in Memphis. There's a local homeless charity that they help folks who are homeless and the addicted, and that's I've talked to you on your show about my brother, so that's kind of near and dear to my heart about somebody trying to get them out of addiction and trying to get them back on their feet. So it's a pretty good charity, and that's what we give to. That's what I try to give to when we can.
Oh, and you make that open, you've made that known, and it's an obvious thing. It's out there. It has been, and yet you still get people sort of giving you that. I said you're blaspheming for profit. Unfortunately, I can't take credit for that one. That was one of your wonderful fans, apparently, that has decided to attack you and claim that your teachings aren't biblical. That there's no biblical basis for the things that you're talking about in being anti-state and being a bad Roman. Is that what I'm getting out of that?
The guy you're talking about specifically, I think it all boils down to my view on borders and imaginary state lines.
Oh, imaginary lines, right?
Because he's accused me of child trafficking because I don't support this stuff, and I'm like, I don't really know where he got. I think he's a lunatic. I think he's off his rocker. But the stuff he's accused me of is pretty strange, and a lot of it seems a little like he's attacking me. But it's also a little bothersome too, because we had a review on our page about the same topic, and he said, well, they didn't believe in imaginary lines until I came and doxed their address, and
right.
I don't know if you saw that one or not.
I did see that one.
You start getting a little paranoid, but then you kind of look up where their location is, and you're not too worried about it. They're not that close to you, but you never know what these maniacs out there are going to do, especially when they go to try to defend their tribalism. You never know how they're going to behave. And so, but I'm not too concerned with it. But it is, I do appreciate the algorithm boost, but where he's getting his information about me is very strange and not even close to what's
it's not information. It's not, it's just, he's just saying stuff. There's no basis in fact there.
It almost sounds like a drunk rant to me.
Right.
That's what it sounds like to me.
You have such an interesting position. We've talked about this before. You know, the anarchists themselves has a bad name because there are a lot of people who go around calling themselves anarchists who do stupid stuff and give anarchy a bad name. And Christians have the same problem. You have a certain number of people who run around calling themselves Christians and believers in the teachings of Christ, and they don't act very Christ-like.
Yeah. That's something that we battle almost on a daily basis. I had a guy message me last night, matter of fact, and I don't think he claims to be a Christian, but he said, "You're the first person that I've seen that does not behave like what we're used to seeing from other Christians." He goes, and he's an anarchist. He said, and I said, well, we just try to show people that there are Christians out there that are not beholden to the state. We actually do try to follow the teaching of Jesus, because everything the state does is antithetical to the teachings of Jesus. So if you're behaving as a statist, you're working through the state, trying to get elected or vote, any of that stuff, you're going against everything Jesus taught us. And I think our numbers are growing, so we're reaching some folks. So that's a good thing, you know. And I remember you telling me one time, I think it was the first time you had me on your show, you said it seems like a steep hill to climb, and it is. We're always swimming against the current, it feels like, but it's a cause that we all believe in. I mean, just no king but Jesus, and then we're trying to get back to that.
It's really great that it's worked out, because it's already a tough topic, either one of the topics. Christianity or anarchy. Yeah. Either one, take one. And then you've decided, hey, I'm going to take and smash two ideas that people don't understand together and try to put them forth. Well, I think that sounds like a great way to live the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's made my life a lot more busy. You were asked about the salsa earlier. Right now, it's been pretty slow because this time of year it's slow. Farmers markets will be picking up here in about a month and a half, and it'll pick back up then. But the salsa and the topic that we try to stick to with the Bad Roman is, it is. If I remove the word anarchy and I talk to people about Christianity and people ask me why I don't participate in the voting and all that other garbage, I just say it's because it goes against everything that Jesus teaches me. And so I could drop the anarchy. It's not, I'm not saying that I'm dropping anarchy, but if I'm talking to a Christian or a professing Christian about this stuff, I'm like, listen, I don't do this because I'm a Christian. I don't have to say anarchist, but out at the farmers markets, we got a table throw on the table, and it's got I don't know if you can see it here, but it's the Jesus fish with the anarchy symbol. Well, people will walk up to the booth and say, "Is that an anarchy symbol?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is, but you need to look at the fish too, because it's a combination. It's the Jesus, no king but Jesus." And so we keep it that way, no king but Jesus. But yes, it's anarchy. I had a guy at the last farmers market I was at last year. He walked up, saw it. He had an anarchy symbol on his tattoo on his arm, and he couldn't stop talking to me about it. And the more we talked about, and I don't know if he was really a Christian, but the more we talked about the teachings of Christ, he goes, "Well, Jesus was an anarchist." I said, "Yeah, he didn't have to call himself an anarchist." So that's kind of how I try to live my life. I don't have to call myself an anarchist. I just try to live that way the best I can, and I do that through the teachings of Jesus.
Well, it seems like, we've talked about it any number of times now over the years, and they seem like a natural thing to go together, because Jesus taught about love and respect for individuals, and that, he kind of in a lot of ways taught that labels they're not what matters about people. What matters is where you get past that. You get past the labels that other people tend to affix, and even the labels that people affix to themselves by getting down to the human values that you share between. It's one of the things that is an interesting barrier. I'm sure you experience this as well, because there's being a right anarchist, I guess, or a Christian anarchist. there's an affinity, a natural affinity for who the people who claim to be conservatives, the conservative right and the Christian right in this nation, because they hear us talk about being left alone. They hear us talk about minimal government. They hear us talk about conservative effort within managing the money system, if it must be managed at all, and we talk about the right of self-defense and things like that, and they immediately think, oh, well, this guy's going to be, we're going to get along with this guy. But then as soon as you start talking about the state, as soon as you actually include that entity in the conversation, those things become superficial. Those things you suddenly notice that the conservative values those things after he values the state, and it's the same on the left too. That we say that we don't make any friends on either side of this conversation, on the left or the right, because we're not trying to placate them. We're actually trying to deal with people and truth, as opposed to systems and manipulations and controls that ultimately lead to people turning their back on humans, other humans, and values, devaluing them. This guy that's doxing you, that's giving you a hard time, he doesn't like you because of your stance on the borders, and you're like myself. You think that borders are a statist construct, that they don't really exist, that there's a difference between state borders and private property, and that those two things are so completely different when you're talking about the conversation. What do they always tell you? Well, why do you want to defend the border? You ask them, and they say, well, why do you lock your front door? And I say, well, because that's my house, and I have the right to lock the door of my house. What the hell does that have to do with a border that spans thousands of miles across a bunch of people's houses and property? Do I have the right to lock up all their houses anytime? So this guy doesn't like you just because of this one political stance. This is exactly the sort of thing I'm talking about. We'll get it from the left too, right? They'll think, oh, well, we're about the individual, and yeah, I don't care if you smoke pot and do drugs and want to be a dumbass and do all those things to yourself, as long as you do them voluntarily and you're not hurting other people, then I don't have a problem with it. But as soon as you start talking about capitalism, my God, make the mistake of saying anything about being a corporation or having a business and trying to make money or sustain yourself. And what do you get from the left? You get attacks about how corporations are bad and white people are bad, and they'll accept borders when those borders supposedly keep out people they don't like. But I get tired of it. In fact, I'm kind of done with it.
Yeah, it's pretty exhausting. Leading up to after that shooting in Minnesota, where it was a clear case of murder. I was exhausted that for a few days because of all the conversations, not because I was tired of having the conversation. Mm-hmm. It was the people I was talking to, like that one guy, but there were several of them that were coming at me about that, and just none of their pushback makes any sense to me. It almost feels like sounds like they're reading from a script. Everything they're saying is, so everything they're saying is just... Well,
okay, in a sense they are, right? Because this is just crap they've heard from the news. Yeah. This is just what they saw on Fox or whatever. Yeah. It's not any response to actual concerns about individuals. So they just call them illegal and then devalues them, and they're no longer people.
Well, yeah, and you were talking about the left and the right. Well, right now, for some reason, I'm a Democrat or I'm a libtard. I've been called this. These are the four things I get called: libtard, demoncrat. I got called a Chinese spy, and I also got called a pedophile and I'm like, where do you get this stuff from? But they forget the 4 years, and maybe they don't remember. Maybe they thought I was on their side the 4 years that Biden was in office or when Obama was in office, but. Well, not even Obama, because back then I was still a statist, but sure. You know what I mean? Like I'm an equal opportunity offender of the state. I don't care where you're coming from. If you were trying to strip me of my rights, I have a problem with you, and both sides do it equally. I see no difference in the two. I mean,
no,
they just
I don't
go
see
about
any
it
difference in the two, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that meme, right? Hey, hold
Yeah.
on, what do you see in this? It's the same picture.
It's the same picture.
Absolutely, because it is, and not only is it the same picture, the same people arguing the same stupid things, but they have this delusion that when they argue those things, or when they win one of their elections, or they win one of their votes, that they're winning, that they're actually changing something, and that something is being done differently, when in fact nothing is changing, at least not for the better. You can definitely point at things and say that things are changing. A year ago we didn't have masked, armed gunmen roaming the streets with questionable authority, questionable legal authority, right. No moral authority whatsoever, questionable legal authority to snatch up people out of their homes without warrants, without any regard for what is supposedly the rule of law that protects all of us, all people, from the actions of the state when the state is compromised by whichever party or whomever happens to be in control at the time. Because the thing that they seem to be missing, this is what I'm getting at, they seem to be missing this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem to change the system when you elect somebody different. And by different, I mean Democrat versus Republican. So right now we have a bunch of Republicans. Then that's going to drive a bunch of people to the polls the next cycle, and we'll get a bunch of Democrats back in there. But fundamentally, the business of government will not change. They'll shuffle people from one place to another. They'll fire people that aren't loyal to the current team, but the programs don't change.
Right.
The debt keeps going up.
Yeah. You mentioned the masked thugs roaming the street. It's funny you said that, because I saw something earlier before we got on here, and they were sharing something from Obama. Their biggest tool is deflection. So something Obama did, how many people he deported, y'all didn't have a problem.
Yeah, 250,000 or something like that.
I'm like, listen, I said, both are immoral. But I said, but I don't remember seeing what we're seeing right now, because what we're seeing right now eerily looks like some Gestapo tactics that y'all just want to gloss over. Like, you can't tell me this, right? And then now they're coming out and saying, and whatever you feel about the Constitution, you know how I feel about it, I know how you feel about it. But anybody listening, what they're doing is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Straight up violation of it. And you got people on the right defending it. Like, they don't need a warrant. They can just kick your door. And I was like, do you not understand what you're allowing to happen here? Because just because your guy's doing it, don't be pissed off when the guy that you oppose is doing the same thing. People like yourself, people like myself, we've been telling people that this was coming for a long time. And I specifically have said that the purpose of the sort of defund movement is to federalize police. Yeah.
And that's it. And now ICE is the largest police force, or certainly the most well-funded police force in America.
Yeah. And they don't have any, and going back to the Constitution, when you think about them even existing, it's an illegal agency. They don't even have the right, they don't have the authority to be doing what they're doing anyway under the United States Constitution. Nobody wants to hear that either. And I don't understand it. But you know, it's we could always go back to the Constitution. It doesn't have any enforcement mechanism like Patrick Henry was complaining about during the founding. And it's just a piece of paper. And now
there's no penalty for failure. That's the problem with government. There's no penalty for failure. When it was a thing where you were supposed to just sort of go in, do a term, go back to your normal life, you do your public service, you go back to your normal life. When it wasn't a business, when it wasn't a job, it wasn't as big of a deal. But now it's a thing where you have these people who are in there for too long, and they control things, and they build too much power in building power for themselves and their agency and their state and their constituents and whatever excuse they have. They build too much power for the system, and the system never gives the power back. So all that happens is because the next guy comes and takes over the system and weaponizes it against everybody he doesn't like. That's what's happening right now. Yeah. I don't understand why conservatives can't see that Donald Trump is the biggest hypocrite in politics to ever exist. Yeah. And that's saying something.
Yeah, that's saying a lot because, you know, I think about that sometimes when people are like, well, would you rather have Hillary or Kamala? I was like, I don't want any of them. But I have to think, I was like, I don't know that this would be going on right now. I don't know for sure. I think it will in the future now because they can see they can get away with it. It's the same thing we saw with COVID. They were seeing how much they could get away with, and they're doing the same thing right now. When you got half the country, or I don't know how many people are supporting this, defending what's happening in the streets, and the other half fighting back against it because they don't like the person in power doing it. Now, if it was their person doing it, they would keep their mouth shut about it as well.
Well, that's it, right? It's the hypocritical nature of it that just drives me batty because I'm the first to say I don't care about any of these documents. I don't care about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, none of it. It's all pointless. It's all meaningless, obviously. Right. Where are we right now? Questioning whether or not these things would protect us. Obviously, they didn't protect us. They didn't stop it. They haven't done any of these things. So I don't care about these documents. But because the statists do, I like to speak to them in the language that they're talking. And when they dismiss very simple notions, for me, the Bill of Rights is the second most second most important of the documents. The Declaration being the most important because it's just a statement. The Bill of Rights being the second most important because it's an attempt to suggest that individuals exist above the state and that the state can't, for whatever reason, whether it's another person or another state or whatever it is, political enemies, it doesn't matter, that it can't just run roughshod over the individuals, that it has to go through a process and that you have to follow through these things. So the Bill of Rights is a fairly important part of that process in suggesting that we are protected. And the language in the Bill of Rights is really very simple. The only people who argue that there is a question about what the Bill of Rights means are people that are trying to take those rights away from you. And that's all there is to it. Yeah. If you question the Second Amendment and militia or well-regulated or any of this language instead of the people and, make no laws, shall not infringe these. When you ignore those things for the other things and try to suggest that those are more important, then you've missed the point. And there's not one of the amendments, one of those amendments in the Bill of Rights that says anything about citizens, Americans, white people, men, voters. None of those qualifiers exist within those protections from state actors and actions. It's all people people under U.S. jurisdiction. Yeah.
Yeah. But where's the disconnect? That's what I don't understand.
Right.
I don't, that's what I don't understand. Where I shared a post the other day, and I think I don't know how you feel about this, but to me, with what's going on with the immigration stuff, there's a level of racism that people are not wanting to talk about. And then I had Chris Polk on the show, and we talked about this. We've talked about immigration. He goes, I think it goes beyond even racism. He said it's dehumanization of these people. Yeah. Like they're less than people. Yeah. And it's just like they're dogs. You've heard Donald Trump call them dogs. Mm-hmm. They treat them like they're less than human. And so when I'm talking to, I try to meet people where they're at. I'm a big believer in that. So if I talk to somebody about the Constitution, I know they don't understand anarchy, so I've got to try to meet them where they're at because my study of the Constitution led me to anarchy. I mean, pretty much. But so when I'm trying to appeal to somebody's Christian side on this conversation, they cannot break away from their status mentality on it. That their status mentality overrides anything that they've learned in the Bible, which is so strange to me. Because I could pull up the Sermon on the Mount, everything that Jesus said on the Sermon on the Mount. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in that sermon, and it's a very short sermon, that says we should be putting people in cages for crossing imaginary state lines.
No.
You know, I mean, well, Jesus would follow the law. Really? Really? Think about that. When Jesus was killed for not swearing Caesar as king. I mean, come on. And he was killed by religious leaders for not following their laws.
And sacrificed by the other religious leaders to appease the state.
The idea that Jesus would follow the law today, I'm like, y'all would have Jesus and his followers arrested if he was walking around in America right now. Well, and probably strung up and killed him.
Was it was one of these Bondi or somebody like that, one of these talking heads up there the other day that literally said Jesus would never storm a church. Not that I support what Don Lemon did the other day. It was Lemon, right?
See, I don't know. I know a little bit about.
No, it's not Lemon. Oh God, his name is. It may come to me. Everybody knows. You can go look up this story. They stormed this church the other day and claimed it was a protest speech, but a church is still private property. You still don't have the right to go around pushing other people around on private property when you're not invited. Well, even when you are invited, because you can be asked to leave, it's not public property. Is not the place that you hold a protest unless you are invited to do so by the church. You know, the deacon, the minister, I don't know, whoever, the pastor, the parson. There's so many different words for him. The bishop, I don't know, maybe one of those guys. But it turns out that they attacked this guy in his flock in his church because he had a name similar to some other douchebag on the ICE team, and so that's why they did that.
So you know more about it than I do. I did hear about it, but what I heard was that one of the pastors was an ICE agent.
Yeah, he's not. He just had a name, like a last name that, well, maybe the full name was similar or even exactly the same to some ICE agent, but he was a completely different person. And so, yeah, it was misguided. It was definitely misguided. And again, where, you know, I don't expect the left. I don't expect those guys to respect private property. They don't understand it. But it should be obvious when you go into some place that's not yours, right? It's not that's the trick with private property, right? If it's not yours, it's somebody else's, and then that means that you have no say over it, and that property is subject to somebody else telling you that you can or can't be there at their discretion, and everybody should recognize that. If you come into my house or God's house, whatever it happens to be, and I or God tell you to get the hell out.
Yeah, I don't think it's helpful for them to storm the church. And when I first heard about it, and I heard that the pastor was an ICE agent, my first thought was like, well, if your pastor is part of ICE, you need to find another church.
You need another church. Yeah.
Because it reminds me of something I saw. Somebody said, if your church is not speaking out against what ICE is doing right now, you need to find another church.
Yeah.
And we shared that. And I think I agree with that. But storming a church, that you're not going to win any sympathy from people on your side by doing that. It's the same thing we saw with the riots. You're not going to get any sympathy from people for burning down private property and entering into a church, and that's just ignorance. That's stupid. I understand you're upset, but you need to direct your anger at the people that are causing all of this, not people going to worship on a Sunday.
Yeah.
That's
we need to get to the heart of the matter, right? It's misdirected, and this is the problem with the conservatives in this conversation, and them running aside from the fact that they're supporting this sort of violation of every single right we supposedly have, is this idea that the immigrants are not the problem.
Yeah.
Immigration is not the problem in this country. Yes, there are problems that derive from the immigration policies that we have, but those problems come from the system that's here that attracts them to come here. And everybody seems to ignore that. When I ask the question directly to anyone openly out there, why do you feel the need that we need to protect our borders? Invariably, the answers are economic. The answers are to do with voting, to do with, rolling immigrants into the voter rolls. And sorry, guys, while we're talking about the documents here, it's very clear that only citizens have the right to vote in America. While we're talking about language, it's pretty well spelled out. And it makes sense because voting is a statist construct and citizens are also a statist construct. So, of course, the citizen is the one who has the right to vote, but that's not the problem. It's the fact that the system allows them to come here and get in the voting process, to get on the dole, as it were, and collect, whatever services, free services, medical care, whatever that most of us don't get anyway. You're talking about things that we would never put up with in any other service. We don't want welfare. We don't want it for anyone, for any reason, as long as the welfare is, euphemistically called welfare, and it's actually just theft, right? It's just being stolen from our pockets and given to somebody else. That's what we're really talking about here. We're not talking about true welfare, right? And as long as those systems are in place, as long as those things are here to attract people, that's what's going to happen. And instead of fixing the problems here at home, they're saying, well, let's spend more money, let's violate more people's rights to round them up and not actually solve the problem. The thing that brings them here is never solved, but we continue to go down the path of wasting the money, of throwing away our rights, and sitting here and arguing about it while these things become entrenched politically, and we can't do anything about them.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder how people can't recognize that. I mean, where's the line at? Where do you? At what point do you like, okay, things are getting worse, and my guy's in charge right now? Why can't you put these two and two together? That it's the state is the problem. It's not left and right. It's the entire state is the problem.
Well, I'll tell you, I know the answer to that question because I talk about it all the time. And, of course, I talk about how everything in life, everything in reality is on a bell curve. And this is one of the things that's on the bell curve, and that's reality. And politics is out here, and it gives you this Overton window view of the world while the real world is all this out here. We're looking at just this one little spot on the graph, and because of the politics and because of the Overton window. And so there's just this one little spot right here on the graph that we're looking at. And if you were to zoom out, you would see that, it was bad and things got better. And then there was a peak and things started to decline. And now we're down on this side. And so when you zoom back in and don't look at the rest of that, you see, spike. Productivity. Things are great. But when you zoom back out again, it's still on a downward trend. And that's what I'm talking about when nothing gets fixed, nothing changes. That's exactly what I'm talking about, reflected in that natural bell curve that produces itself. It exists for everything. It exists for intelligence. It exists for wealth. It exists for population. It's a perfect example of a way to explain to somebody our understanding of any one thing. There's no understanding of it. We don't know it exists. As we learn more about it, we conquer it. As we conquer it, it becomes less important or less noticeable. It becomes ubiquitous, whatever. And so when you look at things that way, and then remember that most people aren't looking at that whole big old picture, that they're only being shown this one little window from whatever news source or whatever it is that they happen to believe, their pastor that they happen to believe. This is all they're getting on this picture. This is it. This is all they're getting, and that's why. And for some reason, for other reasons, it's fear. In incompetence, ignorance, we have such a stupid population and it's such a fearful population that they don't want responsibility. This, I'm the guy I'm the anarchist that'll tell you that anarchy will never work. It's a utopian dream because most people aren't responsible for themselves and don't want to be responsible for themselves. If I were wrong in that statement, the state wouldn't exist and we wouldn't have the problems with the state being empowered and never giving power back to the people when it no longer needs to act as a collective,
Yeah, I mean, the idea of it being utopian, I think it's more important for us to just try to live that way in our personal lives. Yeah. I mean, as far as trying to get to an anarchist society or voluntary society.
Anarchy.
Toward anarchy. Yeah. Somebody, she's got a great page. It's called Organarchy, but she describes it as a like a revolution of your mind. It's a philosophy. We're moving towards, like you're talking about, moving towards anarchy. Because it's on a personal level. I don't think it can be on a grand scale. I mean, it could be if we were all smart, intelligent, like you were just talking about, but we're not.
We're not, and responsible and all of these other things, but we're not. And we never will be, and the majority never will be.
Right. We're vastly outnumbered by people who, like you were talking about the Overton window, it reminds me of some people cherry picking scripture out of the Bible.
No, that never happens.
Never. Well, it happens when the guy that wants to dox me or attack me, he likes to throw in scripture. I can't even tell if he's a Christian, but he'll try to use a scripture to try to justify what he's saying. First of all, I can't understand what he's saying to begin with. And then he throws in a scripture behind it. I'm like, well, what are you using that scripture for? You're cherry picking something and you're not taking the whole thing together as what Jesus was teaching. So it's, sorry, I didn't mean to kind of jump off topic.
No,
you were talking.
You go. I'm with you, brother.
It reminded me of that because
absolutely
a lot of cherry picking, and we like.
It's the same problem. It's the same problem. It's looking directly at what's happening, directly what's written in the scripture, directly what's written down right before your face in the politics, whatever it happens to be, and going, nah, that's not happening. That's not what they meant.
Yeah. It's absolutely absurd. And that's what I said earlier. It gets exhausting after a while. I've done pretty good over the past few days and kind of turn my phone upside down and try to leave some of it alone.
Right.
But,
hey, brother, let me tell you, man, I did this. I can't believe I haven't told you this already. So I did this maybe a year and a half ago now. We ended up, we switched carriers, got new phones, whole family, whole thing. And when I set up the new phone, no notifications, nothing. Phone and text, that's it. No Facebook, no Instagram, it's all on here. I can go browse it, but it doesn't call me. I don't answer to it. Life is so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good to turn your phone upside down and take a break from it. My problem is I got one of these apps that notifies me every time somebody interacts with the Facebook page. Now, I don't always go look at it. I can see who it is. Like, I know who that guy is. That's one of my regular trolls or somebody else going to defend the project. Then I might read that one because I do appreciate a little bit of support every once in a while. It kind of helps help us keep going.
Yeah, right. Remember that there are people actually out there. Well, that's the problem, and this is a fact of broadcasting, and it always has been, broadcasting, podcasting, whatever, that, the people that are happy listening to you are just happy listening to you, and they don't really, you don't really hear from them. They don't have a reason to complain. They're just listening, and that's most people. And then there's this small percentage of people, and it's not that they even want to necessarily prove that you're wrong. It's just that they have to be heard saying that they're right.
Yeah. And I appreciate them so much, too, because the vast majority of the people that follow the project are way more intelligent than I am. And so they could go lay down a conversation with some of these people and just really shut them up. And so I don't.
Well, that's always been a thing, right? Have you ever seen Howard Stern, Private Parts?
Maybe it's been
a grip since you did. Yeah. Well, one of the points that they make in there is a point that has always been true about, again, broadcasting, and that's that your haters will listen to you as much as the people who like you. They will drive your numbers up, and they give the same reason for why. It's because I want to hear what they say next.
Yeah, I would like to set up like a portion of the project and be like, and just make a list of people. These are my favorite algorithms, my favorite little algorithms. These people push the show more than they're actually helping us.
Yeah,
and I think it's kind of funny. So I tell them, I said, thank you for your algorithm boost. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. All that interaction, man. Just that like, let alone the comment or a share and then a comment, positive or negative. It really boils down to one of those things where there's no such thing as bad press, because as long as what they share comes from you and is your words, then everybody has to be a judge for it themselves. It doesn't really matter what the other person says about your words as long as your words are right there, and what you said can't be misconstrued other than through, their fantasy, whatever.
Yeah, I've noticed too, just over the past month or so, that if we've always been pretty good. I think actually almost every time kept our messaging consistent. I mean, you know what you get when you come to Bad Roman. It's the same. I mean, I don't know that I've drifted off of that at all.
I don't think
if I have, it's my bad. But what I've noticed is the more you do that, the more your numbers kind of go up. And I can look at like over the past 30 days or so on our page, we've had over 200,000 views just on the page alone. Not that they're interacting, there's 200,000 views of the Bad Roman project out there. It means, all right, well, they at least got an eye of it. They've seen it. Now, will they come back? I don't know. We'll see. But still, a couple 100,000.
Well, and you won't know. That's the thing about it, again, because that's the same stuff. That's that same feedback or lack of feedback that you get from people that are just happy with it. Yeah. And a big part of the problem is, and that's why even I start the show always anymore, particularly with that, do it now on the click the like button. Because you forget. Yeah. I do it too. I'm conscious about it because, brother, I go out there, I jump onto YouTube and pull up a Pink Floyd song that has 7 million plays and like 5 likes. Seriously? Now, I know like 6 million of those listens were me. But come on, give up the likes, folks. Even if you got to do it, and you got to do it right away before the show is over. Whatever you're listening to, whoever it's the most powerful thing that you can do for anyone that you support, or even if you don't support them per se, but you don't detract from it. As long as I don't hate and completely disagree with what somebody says when I watch it on YouTube, I give them the obligatory like, man. It's just there. And it's just something that we have to make ourselves do as conscientious listeners, watchers of content like this and across the social media. It's just something that good people have to do because the bad stuff has always worked its way to the top. It's not the cream that works its way to the top. The cream in this case kind of settles and is happy and is just happy to sit back there and listen. And when they do disagree, it's probably not the end of the world, and they probably forgot about it 5 minutes later. But they're still there, and they're not being, they're not doing the negative thing, but they're also not doing the positive thing, and we just got to draw that out of people. You just have to keep pushing it and keep pushing it. There's nothing we can do about it. It's just a natural thing that's always existed. It really has.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. If I see something, I try to give them a like too. I understand what goes into all this, and it doesn't hurt to give it a like. Maybe you don't want a lot of. It just takes
so short. It's just so little effort to do. Yeah, and you know what? If you end up watching something or listening to something or read the rest of the way through the post after you give the like, you can always take it back.
Yeah,
you can just uncheck the like. I mean,
you're not
if it
bound
really
by that
turns out that you don't like it, you can unlike it.
Yeah,
or hell, give it a thumbs down. I don't care. That's it. I'll take it.
Yeah, or just put a period in the comment section, something.
Yeah, well, that'd be nice. I mean, honestly, I'm honest. I honestly care what somebody who has an honest opinion about something that, maybe they don't understand, or maybe I wasn't clear enough about, and they want to come and ask me for a clarification or an understanding. I'm absolutely happy to engage with anyone that wants to have an honest conversation. Problem is, as you know, those conversations are hard to come by.
Yeah. And I'm always appreciative too if I get something wrong for somebody pointing it out. Now, if you're just coming at me to attack me because you don't agree with the message altogether,
I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I
had that on the contact page on the old website up there. It's like, hey, reach out if you want to, but if you're going to bitch at me about something some slight you've imagined that my words have caused you, I don't want to hear it. Don't bother. Just don't bother. I'm not interested. I won't care. I won't respond to you. I won't even read it. It won't affect me. Your point will go unnoticed. I don't care.
Yeah. I've heard it all, I think, at this point. So a lot of the attacks that I get, it just kind of rolls off my shoulders. I'm sorry they don't like what we're doing, but I'm not going to change what I'm doing. I didn't come into this to try to make friends. I mean, I've made a lot of friends through it all. Don't get me wrong, but
good ones too.
A lot of great ones. But I'm really passionate about what we do with the project, and it's an important message, and it's something that we're going to keep doing until we don't. I don't know when that is, but right now we're still rolling full steam ahead, and I don't have any plans of stopping it, because I think that, like I said, the message is so important to me and the people that are involved in the project, and we are making some headway, how little it might be, but we're making a little bit. People are starting to kind of recognize it. And, as much as we bitch about the state, they give us a lot of good material, and we can point out the atrocities of their tyranny. And then we can keep talking about it. I mean, just with that shooting in, was there Renee Nicole Good? Immediately I started talking to Larkin Rose. We got him on the show, and you can just, we could have this conversation about what happened in there, because not that I'm wanted to have that conversation. I hate what happened, but it's a conversation that needs to be had, especially if you've got Christians out there defending what happened. You can't defend this as a Christian. There's nothing about what happened that day that Jesus would support.
Well, she's not an immigrant, but she's easily dehumanized. She's a lesbian. She's not at home, barefoot, pregnant, in the kitchen, watching the babies. She's taking on the role of a man in some, there are all these reasons that people can fabricate, particularly on the right, to hate this individual and dehumanize this individual and dismiss their humanity, and therefore make it okay to kill them, regardless of whether it was state, the state that did it, because of course the state only kills people who deserve it.
Yeah, that was one of the most disturbing parts of what happened, was people, the comment section, people were attacking her, and I'm like, she's got kids, she had a wife, she had people that cared about her, and y'all are attacking her, and people laugh reacting what happened to her. I'm like, what happened to people? What happened to? There's no moral code for people these days. It doesn't, for the vast majority. And like I said, we're vastly outnumbered by a lot of these people, it feels like. But then when you get out in the real world, I don't think that's true. We see people out in the real world that aren't behaving what we're seeing on the line, and that's why I think it's important to turn your phone upside down every once in a while and go out and touch some grass. Being
somebody, well, you get it, because you're going to the farmers markets and doing things like that. So you're out there in the public, and you got a banner. You're flying a banner. You're showing it out there. I have the comic book store, and the customers, I don't make it any secret that I am who I am. In fact, I leverage my popularity, what little bit there is, to help boost the popularity and exposure for the store. And I talk to real people every single day in the store, and these things, well, let's put it this way. Not one person has come into the store and gone, you know what, that bitch deserved to die.
Yeah.
Not one. And it's not like they're all, conservative, redneck. There are definitely a lot of those around here. This is a military town. If it wasn't for a couple of the big businesses, it would be nothing but a service town for the refueling base that is out here, refueling air base that's out here. So Yeah, I mean, they're definitely around there, but that's not what, they're comic book readers for one thing. So presumably they already have a larger world, a better understanding of their reality, or at least people within other realities, maybe. I guess maybe that's the advantage of fantasy, is that people learn about other people, other ideals, other values without actually having to experience them themselves. And so they can sort of learn about them and accept them. That's one of the beautiful things about these wonderful little books, not just the you saw that one? You see that? Yeah. The Madonna from the penthouse. It just happened to come in recently, and part of the I haven't moved it yet. I bought a whole collection from a local Christian man. In fact, he's a former cop, and he owns a liquor store here in town. And just happened to be through there, and he knows that I own the comic book shop. And he's like, "Hey, man, I got this big old collection of all these boxes full of Penthouse and Playboys." And I'm like, "Man, that stuff has almost no value these days, but I'll take
it." Yeah. Speaking of the farmers markets, a lot of those folks out there are going to be on your Christian conservative side. Not all of them. I mean, I'm not trying to paint a picture, but so the conversations are great. I mean, especially the face-to-face conversations where you're not behind a keyboard, you're not behind your phone talking trash to somebody you don't know. Mm-hmm. We have genuine conversations, and people understand what we're talking about. And it does help kind of boost what we're doing with the project, because they can ask about it, and I can tell them go to the website. I can tell them to go. You can find it anywhere if you're interested in this conversation, and it's happening.
Well, you found another way to broach the conversation with somebody, right? There's something else there. There's something more, something tangible. That's how it works in the comic book shop, right? I have one of these things. I have something tangible. They have an interest. They have a need. They need to talk to me. They have to open up to me because I'm the guy behind the counter with all these cool things right here that they want to see and they want to know about. So you have that same advantage there to break the ice. And at the same time, you've found this wonderful way to blaspheme and profit at the same time, apparently. So
yeah, I wish I was profiting off of it, because it's costing me a lot of money to keep this thing going, but we get donations here and there, and the salsa thing really does help. Because
it really does help, yeah. No, it's great that you found a way to monetize it that is more than, it's one thing. You can throw out T-shirts and bumper stickers and keychains and all that crap. You can do that stuff all the time, but it's useless. It's great for a little bit of advertising if you can get somebody to wear your shirt or whatever, or throw a bumper sticker on the car. But man, you can get somebody to eat your food.
Yeah, salsa is a good conversation starter, it seems like, and a lot of people like salsa. And when you make good salsa, I mean, I always take samples out there to the farmers market, so whenever I hook them that way. Once they taste it, they very rarely walk away without buying it.
I know, all good drug dealers do. Brother, we got like 1 minute. Anything you gotta get out there real quick, and we'll plug in. Obviously all the links, badroman.com, badromansalsa.com, all that stuff's up there at towardanarchy.com. But anything else you got going on you want to mention?
I can't think of anything, man. I really appreciate you inviting me back on, and
always, brother.
I'm sure we'll do it again for sure. I love getting to speak with you. You're one of my favorite people on the interwebs.
Thank you. You're one of my favorite people. I just love consistent people, man. It's not about anything else. It's about that consistency where you can look at somebody and go, you know what? I know what that guy's going to say about that thing, because then you can trust that person. All that other stuff set aside, it don't mean nothing. When you get down to truth and human connection, that's what's important. And that's what you're about. And I value that, brother. I value you, and I appreciate what you do.
Well, I really appreciate that, Michael. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. Craig Harguess, badromanproject.com, Bad Roman, and it's the badroman.com. It's the Bad Roman Project. You can check it out at the badroman.com, badromansalsa.com, and the rest of you, we will see you next week on Toward Anarchy. Take care.
Capitalism does not tell men to serve and sacrifice, but to produce and profit. Capitalism does not preach passivity, humility, resignation, but independence, self-confidence, self-reliance. And, above all, Capitalism does not permit anyone to expect or demand, to give or to take the unearned.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy.